Great. Now, with engineers, we are problem solving. So I'm talking about the success journey through the postgraduate maze. And I kept it as postgraduate because, to me, it's a question of a lifelong learning. It's a lifelong journey. I consider myself forever and ever a postgraduate student. I just do it in different ways. So I never stop learning. The first issues to talk about, I'll try not to cover the things that were talked about this morning. I'm coming at it from a different sort of angle, is when you talk about you doing a PhD or postgraduate study, the strategic positioning of your research focus area. It's all well and good getting up of a morning and think, you know, I would just like to know why flies, you know, only come when the food is smelly. Excuse me? Excuse me? As my grandmother would say, what's that got to do with the price of fish? And how is that going to change anybody's life? You know what I mean? So relevance is important. Context is important. When you're thinking about how you're going to strategically position your research area, it's crucial that you take all those things into account. It's all well and good doing blue sky thinking. There's nothing wrong with that. We can all blue sky. But at the end of the day, you got to put rice on table, folks. Yeah, you know what I mean? You got to pay the bills, get the kids through school. Yeah, and along the way, get yourself a husband or a wife if you can find one. So, you know, there's a bit of reality check needs to come into the picture here. Am I making sense here, folks? Yeah. So that's what I mean by strategic positioning. Yeah. So when you've done that, then you then say, okay, I've got this broad brush of my research focus area. Then now I've got to narrow it down because you can't do a thesis on this broad brush. Your research topic or theme. For 3, 4, 5, 6, God knows how many years, it is no use choosing a topic that's going to bore you to death, never mind your supervisor. So find a topic or a theme that's going to keep you excited for the medium to long term. Are you with me? And that is going to press enough buttons to sustain you through that journey. Through the good days and the bad days, the days when you want to just go into the lab and just wreck everything, you know, because you're that fed up. So you need to find a topic. The next thing you then need to consider is what research dynamics or modes should I use to do the research? And I appreciate that in the African context, some of these options that I'm going to talk about are not available. It's all to do with our capacity challenges that Dr. Maharaj talked about. But what I've done here is to give you a flavor of the different things that are available. I did my postgraduate study in the UK. I'm aware of some of the things that are available in the US system. So industry academia. I did chemical engineering. I went on the industry academia track. So I did part of my research in the university and part of it in an industrial plant, which was great because I had 2 supervisors and I could play one against the other and I had the power in the middle. So if I wanted my industrial supervisor to do something, I never said, oh, Professor so-and-so, I think this. I would say, my professor so-and-so in the university suggested that maybe we should try this. And he would go, oh yes, let's do that. And if I wanted the university one to do something, it was never my idea. It was, oh, Professor so-and-so in the industrial plant said, oh yes, please, oh yes, oh. Now, if I had dared to say, who's little me here to come up with an idea? No, it's not working. So the industry academia one was great. It kept me excited on 2 levels because I had the stuff in the lab and I could see the practical industrial applications of my research along the way. Not 3, 4 years down the road after I've written the thesis, but as it happens. Wonderful, exciting. And also, there was a job waiting for me, when I finished. Now, what's better than that? Yeah. So that was good. Now, the other one that's come into place in the last decade is what we call research into use. This has been pioneered by the UK Department for International Development, very much in agricultural research, where it's about bridging the gap from the lab to the plate, where researchers are now integrated with farmers to deliver on the ground. And that's a really exciting research dynamic that's going on now. In Africa, the hubs are in Kenya for East Africa, Ghana for West Africa, and it's also in the Southeast Asian countries. So anybody who's looking into the agricultural sector, food security, please look at going down that it's research into use mode, because it's very innovative and it's a very exciting new development. You can do applied research. That tends to happen more with social scientists. Action research is one that I like, where you're doing the research, you're testing out ideas, and you're assessing them to see if they work. Community-based research, that's again another new development. We keep talking about community empowerment as if it's going to do itself. No, it ain't. People like us have to go there deep down and dirty and get our hands dirty and get stuck in. Yeah, if things are going to change in our community. So community-based research is good. How do you manage the research process? You can set realistic time frames, that helps. No use thinking you're going to do it all in 1 year. You can go for sustainable pacing, is what I find more useful. So you pace yourself. Are you with me? Yeah. It's a bit like when you first get married. You know, you're doing that business 3, 4, 5 times a day. And then your husband says, darling, I don't think I can sustain this pacing. I think we need to, yeah. So you don't go in there and in the first year you want to write your thesis, you want to do the literature review, you want to do your first research paper. It's not sustainable, folks. You got to pace yourself. You got to pace yourself. Yeah. Flexible scheduling. Yeah. That means that you got to be able to be flexible to move things around. So maybe you can say, well, I'll do the lab work first and do the literature review later, or I can do this bit first. So you know what I mean? You've got to build in flexibility, because you never know what things might come your way, and you need to have that flexibility. So flexible scheduling is good. The big one here is conflicts of interest management, which is what I call the employer-employee situation, the slave, the master, power issues with your supervisor. And I think the only way to manage that is to be very pragmatic. Think of yourself in terms of the employer-employee. You as the employee want to get paid as much money as possible for doing as little work as possible. Meanwhile, your employer wants to get as much work out of you for the least amount of money. Now, in that situation, you need to develop negotiation skills. Are you with me, folks? So you got to negotiate, you got to compromise. Humility comes in, because you're the weak partner here, as we heard this morning. You're the vulnerable partner, and you got to eat a big dose of humble pie. Bite your tongue. Yeah, UN diplomacy skills will not be a bad idea. Now here Kofi Annan can be your mentor. Think of Kofi Annan as your mentor and you won't go wrong. So that's always useful. So that's all I'll say about that in terms of the whole supervisor issue. But it's a huge, if you can recognize it for what it is, don't get personal. Please don't. Don't get petty. Just see it in the bigger context, that this is your classic everyday conflict of interest situation. You will have to deal with the same thing when you go into the workplace. Are you with me? And if you don't learn to manage that now, you're going to be changing jobs every 6 months. Yeah, or as you're going to be changing supervisors. Are you with me? So you've got to learn the skills to manage conflict of interest. And remember that one day you're going to be a parent. And there is no greater conflict of interest relationship than between a parent and a child. University politics, university bureaucracy. I know it's tedious, I know it gets you down, but you have to find a sustainable way to navigate that. The other thing then to consider is, do you want to go part-time or full-time? There's pros and cons. If you do full-time, you get there quicker, you do a comprehensive job, you get on with it, and it's done. But then you might have financial challenges, you might struggle to, yeah. So again, that's something you've got to look at your personal situation to decide which way you want to go. And then managing the challenges along the way. The first big one for all of us, certainly from the African continent, is language. Because our God is English. And English is not our first language. And when you're doing PhD now, you're talking higher order language, folks. We're not talking the cat sat on the mat. Yeah. Are you with me? Yeah. Yeah. It is not the cat sat on the mat now. So you're talking serious higher order English. And for many of us, that's a trip. Yeah. And my advice on that is read and read and read widely. Read widely. And read, because you can only write at the level that you read. Let's be honest. So if you are reading The Cat Sat on the Mat, that thesis ain't gonna happen. Yeah. So you gotta be reading at the level at which you want to write. Are you with me? But also read outside your field. Pick up Newsweek, pick up Time magazine. Read in different contexts so that you see a whole range of writing styles and writing language. Are you with me? Yeah, so the broader the breadth and depth of your understanding of writing styles, the better. Gender issues, well, where do I start? When I went to my granny, I remember telling my granny I was going to go and do postgraduate study. And she's like, my child, you want to go and get these 10 books. That was her concept of postgraduate study, 10 books. That's a lot of books for my grandma. But cultural sensibilities and mindsets. And I think here of the historical context within the South African paradigm in terms of a situation now where most of the entrance students in our postgraduate studies are mainly people who are the first in their family to have graduated from university. Now, you know what that means in a situation of poverty and such social inequality. The minute you get that BSc, the family think that they've arrived. So you must now be driving the big car, you must be living in the big house, you know, you must be putting food on table. Yeah, huge expectations. Yeah, and you've only just started, you've only got this piddly little BSc in your hand. But to the family, oh, we've made it, we've arrived, the money will start to flow. So can you then imagine when on the back of these expectations you go, no, sorry mom and dad, but I think I want to carry on and be a student. Hey, Wena, huh? Student! Please, I need my family support. Please phone my mom, phone my dad, and just talk to them to get them round. I've literally had to phone students' parents to explain to them why they need to support their child on this postgraduate journey, to open their eyes. And it has been quite illuminating having those conversations with parents to try and understand the challenges for them. The other challenge you have to manage is location. It makes a big difference whether you are in the Bundus of Forte or whether you are in Cape Town, UWC or UCT. You know what I mean? In terms of facilities, in terms of social life, or whether you're in a one-horse town like Grahamstown, where the university is the town, and that's about it, you know, yeah? So all these things do have pose different challenges for you in terms of how you cope and manage the postgraduate journey. Infrastructure, don't get me started on that. Do the lights come on? I mean, I have had the experience on this continent where I ran my experiment for 5 hours, folks, and just the last 10 minutes when the results were coming through, what flipping happened? The lights went. I was screaming, blue murder here now. You know? I mean, you cannot explain how frustrating that is. The electricity went. I went shooks, I cussed, I vexed, everything. But when I calmed down, I realized I'd have to run the whole experiment all over again. So this is a painful reality of postgraduate study, especially in science and engineering fields on our continent. You folks in social sciences and humanities get it a lot easier because you're not so electricity dependent, you're not so infrastructure dependent. But I tell you, in science and engineering, folks, it's tough. You've got to factor in the infrastructure. The other thing you need to think about is equipment. And here, my advice always is, don't take assurances over the phone from supervisors. Oh yes, we can accommodate your research area, we've got the equipment, or the really dodgy one. Oh, we haven't quite got the equipment now, but once you register for the PhD, we will go and buy the equipment. Alarm bells. You will wait 2 years, and that equipment will still not arrive. You know what I'm saying? And you'll be getting stories about, oh, the university procurement system, you know, this, that, and the other. Meanwhile, 2 years have passed, and you're sitting here trying to get this PhD going and it ain't happening. As they say in Jamaica, you suck salt. Yeah, absolutely. So my advice to anybody going into science and engineering postgraduate studies, go and undertake site visits. Don't just go to the university, go to the very lab, stand in front and mess about with the very equipment that you're going to be working on. Make sure that it works before you sign up with that university or that department. Are you with me? To do your study. If they haven't got it, it's not working, go elsewhere. But don't sit around and on false promises, because you're going to struggle. Yeah. Financial constraints, everybody's talked about already today, so I don't need to say any more about that. A bit about career planning and progression in academia and beyond. It seems a kind of a non-linear path from postgraduate study to careers. And it's baffling, but you have to be creative and imaginative in navigating to arrive at an enhanced position. You need to interrogate, analyze, and explore the nature of academic careers and the progression paths therein. Is that what you want to do? Does it press your buttons? Do you have the personality for it? You know, if you've had horror stories with your supervisor, do you want to really be somebody else's supervisor? Think about it. Is that something you want to do? Yeah. So, what are the rewards? What are the opportunities? What are the downsides, the upsides? And then you have to look at your own personality and your flair. What do you want to bring to the table? What fulfillment do you want to gain? Is it just about the money? Is it about recognition? Is it about other things? Do you want to have fun? We haven't talked about fun today, guys. Postgraduate study should be fun. I had fun. I had a whale of a time. I was cheeky. I was a cheeky man, and I had fun. You know, it was good. It has to be fun, or else what's the point of doing it? And you need to explore other opportunities in industry, in government, financial corporations, the NGO sector. Nobody ever thinks in Africa of the NGO sector as a viable sector. But we do need people with PhDs in the NGO sector. Definitely, we could do with some of those. Regulatory agencies, people who can crack the whip. How can you crack the whip when you don't know any more than the people you're cracking the whip on? Yeah. So that's why so many of our regulatory agencies in Africa do not work. Because it's the blind leading the sighted. Yeah, it's like asking Stevie Wonder, you know, to run a regulatory agency. Yeah. That's the problem we have when we don't have people with PhDs. Absolutely crucial. So you need to look across the range in these sectors, because there's more to them than meets the eye in terms of your career prospects. The next thing you need to think about as getting through is, what's in it for me? What's the added value? We've talked about this morning about moving to knowledge-based economies and the increasing demand for highly educated, skilled professionals. But what we haven't talked about in the implications is the frozen demographics of South Africa's skills pool. Age, the average age of the SCT sector in South Africa, 55 plus. The Zimmer frame generation, folks, Umas and Upas, yeah, granny and granddad, Zimmer frames. Race. We saw the figure for female publications. The last figure I saw, 2010, I think, for publications by Black Africans, Dr. Maharaj, I don't know if I've got it still right, was something like 3.5%. From 1994 to now, to 2010, we have only managed to get up to publications by Black researchers of 3.5%. And this is 90% of the population of the country. Are you with me, folks? We got serious work to do, haven't we? Yeah. It's even worse by race than it is by gender. And I can assure you that even when you break down the gender figures, most of that is coming from white women, not from Black women. So when you look at race, the figures are even more dismal. Social class, huge problems. How can you conceive of a Black child growing up in one of our townships, going to one of those township schools, getting through into university to even do a first degree, never mind doing postgraduate? Huge challenges in terms of social class. So now all this means that we have an even enhanced need for transformation to meet the current and future demands for skilled professionals. Affirmative action policies have created, I'm struggling with my scarf now, affirmative action policies have created the imperative for the enhanced participation and inclusion of the historically disadvantaged in high-end education and skills. But all the affirmative action policies in the world will do us no good if we haven't got the people to take them up. Can it? Yeah. Absolutely. So yes, we've got the affirmative action, but we now need people to come through. And lastly, international mobility opportunities have added to the imperative for the enhanced throughput of South Africa's higher education system. And here we're talking quantity and quality, folks. Because even where we're getting the quantity is not always there. And we need that to mitigate the impact of the brain drain. And the brain drain is not just international, it's also across provinces in South Africa. You look at provinces like the Northwest, where a good friend of mine, Cynthia, lives. Huge brain drain from the Northwest to Gauteng, to the Western Cape. That province is dying. There is no development in the Northwest because they are not able to sustain, are you with me, people with high-end skills. So don't just think of brain drain as, oh, people who go to the US and go to Europe. The brain drain is a big problem within South Africa in terms of regions. The other aspect that you need to consider in terms of your success story is the opportunities for international exchanges and experience in postgraduate success. International exchanges, I think, are just wonderful experiences. They enhance your professional and personal development, they expand your horizons, they build self-confidence, and they generate multiplier benefits for postgraduate success. In a globalized world in the 21st century, there is an increasing demand for highly skilled professionals who can think and operate globally as well as locally. I had the opportunity to spend 2 months in Germany, in a lovely town, Karlsruhe, at a nuclear research center. And I spent 3 months in Valencia in Spain. And I just love the language. I mean, the Spanish language has about 20 different ways of saying, I love you. I'm like, gosh, these people are serious about romance? What is this? In my language, we barely have one way of saying I love you. I was like, wow. I mean, I love that language, and it's still my favorite language since. So definitely, that's one of the things that international exchanges provide. And the other thing I liked about them was the different words for relationships. So there's about 6 different ways of saying my husband or saying my wife. And that depends on whether, you know, you were vexed with him at breakfast and you're not talking. And it then changes if by lunchtime he's had the sense to phone you at work to apologize. And then now you're lovey-dovey again. And then it changes by dinner time when you're thinking about going home from work and, am I even actually going to make him dinner? Yeah. So you can ask the same woman 3-4 times a day about her husband, and she will use a different word for husband, depending on, yeah, the place she is, yeah. So it's a wonderful language. I'm a Latina at heart. I love the language. So these exchanges provide you the opportunity for language acquisition, you know, and multiple opportunities to gain insights, understandings, and perspectives into other cultures, sensibilities, and mindsets. And it inculcates the generation of attributes which are key to your enhanced development. It's not just enough to have serious alphabets after your name. You need to project your sense of being a global citizen, you know. Some of us have PhDs and we look like we just came from the farm. Are you with me here, folks? Yeah. Yeah. We have PhDs. We have PhDs. We have no polish. We have no sense of the world. We have no worldview. Yeah. We are very, you know, narrow-minded in our thinking. Yeah. there is no point having enhanced, qualifications and pieces of paper and alphabets after your name if there is no added value in you as a quality human being. Somebody needs to be able to look at you and more or less make an informed guess that this person does have a PhD. Yeah. And that's even before you open your mouth to speak. There's got to be something about you that says this person, is a world citizen. Yeah. Has been there, done it, bought a few T-shirts, jumped off a few chandeliers, you know what I mean? Yeah. 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 So, the last section I'm going to add in here, yeah. I'm going to charge you guys for these laughs. I'm going to charge you for these jokes, yeah. Entrepreneurship and innovation. These are additional ingredients to enhance success. And